So anytime you want to go over what we're going to play at tonight's service, listening audience.
There is one song that I was looking for and I can't find it.
You know what's funny? It's not a listening audience. That's a term that I picked up from, are you ready for this, kids? Radio.
The radio.
Radio.
That is true. All right, the one song I wanted, I cannot find.
The Jewish music?
The Jewish music. Yes, Jewish music. It's okay. Oh, the challah smells so good. You know what? Tonight we're going to eat the challah.
We're going to eat the challah tonight, but not from the middle.
Not from the
Because that's
middle.
not what
No.
grown-ups should do.
No, certainly not. I know. Oh, here, can we do this? This is what I was looking for. Okay.
Yeah, really?
Not if you're not up for it.
Okay.
If you're not, we can skip it. It's fine. Okay, let's do it.
It's kind of quiet. Should we pose any Jewish trivia? Do you have any Jewish trivia for tonight? Anything like that?
I do, yes. The Jewish trivia for anyone who's already turned on early
Or
is...
Comments? Leave a comment.
What is the word for turkey in Hebrew?
Now, technically, we'd like the full term for turkey.
Correct.
We don't want the shortened term, the abbreviated term, or anything modernized, or a transliterated word of turkey into Hebrew with Hebrew letters. We're talking about the compound word. Is it a compound word? That's your hint.
It is.
That's your hint.
It is. It is a compound word. It is not smichut, but it is a compound word. That's it.
Yeah, because it doesn't have
Yeah.
yeah, that was for your class, not for my class.
Wow.
My class was a lot of anxiety. A lot of Breakfast Club moments.
I actually think I learned about smichut in college. I do not remember learning that in rabbinical school. I also had anxiety in my Hebrew class in rabbinical school. All right, my friends, welcome. Shabbat Shalom. So here we are on the Shabbat of Thanksgiving weekend, and we know that for many of you, for probably all of you, that last night may have been a different kind of Thanksgiving than you are used to. We hope that you found some joy and something to celebrate whatever your evening looked like. And we are glad that you're here tonight. And we know that often the Shabbat of Thanksgiving weekend is a time when many people are with their family and friends and they're able to come to services and experience Shabbat together. So we hope that whether you are together in person in your homes or whether you're all watching from separate screens, that everyone is able to find something joyous and something to be thankful for this weekend. So we're going to begin, as we often do, with the words of Olam Chesed Yibaneh, asking God to help us build a world of love together. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yedadai, 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 Yedadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yedadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yedadai, yedadai, yedadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yedadai, yedadai, yedadai. I will build this world from love, yedadai, 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 yedadai. And you will build this world from love, yedadai, 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 yedadai. And if we build this world from love, Olam chesed yibane, yedadai, yedai, yedadai, yedai. Olam chesed yibane, yedadai, yedai, yedadai, yedai. So knowing that so many of you are at home and maybe watching as you're having your leftovers or whatever you're having for your Shabbat meal, we like to begin our services with those rituals that are usually done at the Shabbat table. For those of you who are with us most weeks, you will notice it is just Rabbi Michael and I here tonight, so we are going to do the blessings. But of course, these are blessings that can be done by anyone in your family. Traditionally, lighting the candles is the role of a Jewish woman. It doesn't have to be. But the idea is really that because in some traditional households, the woman of the family is often the one who's sort of getting ready and doing all of the last minute preparations. And so there's this idea that the minute that she lights the Shabbat candles, it's as if she knows that all that work can stop. And in that brief moment between when she lights the candles and covers her eyes and then uncovers them again, it's as if the whole world has changed and she knows that she has entered into this time of total rest. And so sometimes we bring in the flame closer to our eyes so that we can better sort of make a separation between the work week and this time of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Shel Shabbat. Rabbi Michael, I'll let you do the honors. It's still juice.
Still good. For all of us, wherever we are, may our cup be ever full. May it ever fill the fullness and the sweetness of Shabbat. And we know that it takes grapes being crushed in order to get this sweetness and this moment of peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
L'chaim to all of you.
And we lift our beautiful challah. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Many thanks to the person who supplied us with this beautiful challah, its fragrance and its taste and its filling.
Thank you to Mura Diane and Joan and Molly. If you are watching, this is how you're supposed to do it, just from the end, not the middle.
It takes a village. That's good stuff.
Oh my God, so no wonder they always eat the whole
They'll
thing
make a
during
video
the
for us
service.
someday.
So one of the ways that we welcome Shabbat into our midst is imagining that Shabbat is a bride, and so we sing the words of Shlomo Halevi Alkavetz, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, welcoming in that Sabbath bride just to give a little extra spark and holiness to our weeks each time when we come together. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nikabela Shamo v'zachor v'dibor echad Yishmianu el yuchad Adonai Echad Shamo echad L'shem ol tiferet v'litila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nikabela Likrat Shabbat Lechu v'necha Ki makor habracha Merosh סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. So as you know, each week we do some different things in our service. Each week we add a little bit more of the traditional liturgy back into the service. For this next prayer, our Baruch Hu, this is when we call each other to worship. And you don't have to rise for this prayer, but the idea of rising is just to symbolize that we are calling each other. And that even if you're not in this room, that when we talk to you and sing to you and pray with you at these services, that we are calling out to you, you are calling out to us, and all of us are calling out to God together. So even if we aren't rising in body, we lift our voices and our spirits in song. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We take a moment to say those words that we are taught we should say when we get up in the morning, when we go to bed at night. These words which remind us of the oneness of God. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Last week, I reminded many of you about this idea that Thanksgiving and Sukkot and Hanukkah, that all of them are interrelated. And Sukkot, even though sometimes it may seem to us like maybe not a very important holiday, it is, and it works its way through so many of our prayers and our thoughts. And when we sing our Hashkivenu, we're asking God to spread a sukkah over us of all times, a sukkah shalom, peace. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim, ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, תלמידנו שומרנו לחיים. We come now to this prayer that is in the middle of our service, and it's a prayer. Let's see, it's okay. It's a prayer that's so important that we actually call it the prayer. We call it tefillah. And it's not one that we have been saying since we are together because it is a long one, and it is one that is somewhat difficult to chant if you don't have a siddur in front of you. But the truth is that even when we say that prayer, tefillah, what matters most is not actually the prayer itself, but is the kavanah. It is the intention with which we say and pray it. And so we begin the prayer actually with something that is also called a kavanah, an intention, but it's just one line that's supposed to help us prepare ourselves and prepare our spirits. So tonight we will do not all of tefillah, but we will just do the kavanah that says, Adonai sfatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. O God, open my lips so my mouth may declare your glory. So we take just a moment.
Let's take a moment.
We take just a moment after that kavanah to offer the prayer of our hearts, thinking of our ancestors, thinking of whatever it is that we need most this evening. So in just a moment, we will turn to our Mishaberach, our healing prayer. And I want to share with you just a conversation that I had this week. And I was talking with someone about whether or not it is that God is the one who brings suffering on us. And you will probably not be surprised to hear that this is a conversation that Rabbi Michael and I have had with many of you before. And we believe in our heart of hearts that God is not the one who brings on suffering. But if God doesn't bring on suffering, that also means that perhaps God is not the one who brings healing. So then What is it that we do when we are praying this Misha Berach? When we pray our Misha Berach, we are saying, God, be with us in whatever comes next. If you are able to bring healing, then please bring it to us. But in the meantime, God, give the doctors the strength and the wisdom that they need to do what is right. Give us the courage to face whatever it is that lies ahead for us. Give us healing of the spirit so that our bodies too can be healed in turn. So we have people who we are thinking of here tonight who could use that healing, not just from God, but the strength and the courage that we need as well. So tonight we're thinking of Max, and we're thinking of Liza. We're thinking of Jack Oglander. We're thinking of Arlene Alper. We're thinking of Charles Beach and Jerry Krause, of Meredith Berkowitz and Tyler Testa, and for so many of you, of all of us who are in need of healing. We sing our Misha Berach, and we hope that whatever it is that you need, that healing and wholeness comes to you. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Oh, say shalom bimrama, oh ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Oh, say shalom bimrama, oh ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. So we have not done services without our children here very often, or maybe at all, certainly since the pandemic began. And I just realized that the part of the service we left out this evening is what we've just started doing since the pandemic, which is offering the family blessings. And it's a beautiful tradition, one that I love, because not just that it gives you a special time to be able to bless and be thankful for the people in your family, but I love the very idea of saying that any one of us has the ability to bless another person. And you don't have to be a rabbi, you don't have to know holy words, that just saying, I bless you, can be enough. Now, usually when we do the blessings, when you're doing a blessing for a son, you bless your son like Ephraim and Manasseh, who are Joseph's sons. We will talk about them in a few weeks when we get to them in the Torah. But with girls, it's a much more sort of traditional, a little bit boring blessing. We bless them to be like Sarah and Rebecca, thank you, and Rachel and Leah.
Totally not boring. As a rabbi, I have a different opinion.
Well, just wait until you hear my Dvar Torah. I'm going to say something about it.
This is why I let her do most of the talk.
Okay. So, but the idea of blessing them, of saying these names of Sarah and Rebecca and Rachel and Leah, this is something that is probably familiar to anyone who has been in a liberal Jewish setting, I'd say since like the late 80s. Not just as a blessing that we say over children, but it's something that became a traditional part of our worship service then. You see, the prayer that I talked about earlier, tefillah, the prayer, is also a prayer that we call avot, which means the ancestors. And it used to be that we would just say it. We would just say the names of the patriarchs. But then in the 80s, they added on the names of the matriarchs. But at first, they just sort of smushed them in. And they would say, Elohei Avraham Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak Rivka, Elohei Yaakov Rachel v'Leah, sort of adding in the girls as an afterthoughts. And later on, they realized that that felt a little bit rude, so they changed the turn and the tune, and they were able to add in a little bit more of the tune so they could say the girls' names one by one. And even that has changed a bit over the years. And you may have noticed in our different prayer books, we even sort of switched the order of Rachel and Leah, of the two sisters who are married to Jacob. But if you read this week's Torah portion, you would realize that we're actually still missing two very important people. You see, even though Jacob only had two wives, Rachel and Leah, he had children with 4 women. And those children go on to become the tribes of the Jewish people, each of them as important as the rest. And so the question is, why do we leave out those 2 matriarchs? We leave out Bilhah, who had Naphtali and Dan, and we leave out Zilpah, who had Gad and Asher. What is it about these 2 women that made it so they don't merit the kind of status in the blessing we give to our daughters or when we say tefillah? And the first answer, of course, is because they were not Jacob's wives. Right? Leah and Rachel, they chose to be a part of the Jewish people, to be a part of this family. And with Bilhah and Zilpah, it was, for lack of a better word, it was their job. They were the handmaidens for Leah and Rachel. They were chosen for that purpose. So it wasn't really that they were married to Jacob. It wasn't necessarily that they wanted to do this. It was just what they did because it was their role and it was their job. We also know that part of why we exclude them is because the 2 of them didn't have yichus. And how do you describe, what does yichus mean? Lineage. Oh, that's good. Yichus means lineage. And yichus really means that they did not have any sort of standing because of who they were. We know that Leah and Rachel are not just sisters with each other. They're also Jacob's first cousins, which I know, gross, but was not gross then. But still, they were a part of his extended family. But Bilhah and Zilpah, we know nothing about them. We don't really know who they came from. And even though there are later traditions that suggest they were part of the family, Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer says that actually they were also younger sisters, but there's nothing in the Torah that makes us think that these are 2 women who have the kind of lineage or roots that makes them important. And we also just don't know their stories. We know that over the years, whether it is in ancient midrashim or in books like The Red Tent, that we try to imagine who Bilhah and Zilpah were, who these other 2 matriarchs were. But in the Torah, it's as if they were conjured out of thin air. We know nothing about their stories, but of course they, like anyone else in the world, they must have had parents. They must have had a childhood. They must have had some sort of experience of life and love and loss that made them who they were to get them to this point before they bore children. But for all these reasons, these 2 women, though we know their names and we know their importance, they are somehow deemed irrelevant. And I've been thinking about Bilhah and Zilpah a lot these past weeks, not just because we are reading their story in the Torah, but I've been thinking about how when the pandemic began, we were all very conscious of everyone. We were thinking so much about the fact that we were all in this together, and we were so incredibly appreciative of the doctors and the people working in the hospitals and the police officers and the drivers and the people who were delivering our groceries. And now we are all so tired. We've been doing this for so long, and in some ways we have gone back to the way we used to be. I mean, I go to Schnucks, and now I hardly even notice anymore that there is plexiglass between me and the person who is the cashier or who's bagging my groceries. We have gotten to this point where we have started thinking about these people as if they are kind of like Bilha and Zilpah. Because the truth is, so many of them are also people who, they're just doing a job. This is what they're paid to do. This is what they have to do. It may be that they don't have the yichus, the lineage, or the privilege to do anything better. And we are interacting with them, but often not even thinking of them and what their stories may be. And so what I would implore you in this week of Thanksgiving, when so many of us went around our table or our Zoom screen to think about what we're thankful for, I would encourage you to go back and think about these people who perhaps have slipped our thoughts these last weeks or these last months because we are just so fatigued. To remember that there are so many people who are making our lives easier and who are making our lives safer right now, and they are essential, even though we may not know their stories. Even though they may not be taking on these tasks because they love them, maybe it is just a job and they are making ends meet. But my friends, we have to be the ones to give them honor, to give them the honor that is due to them. Like Bilha and Zilpah, every one of those helpers out there is going to be someone who will change the future of our people and maybe the future of you and your family. So on this Thanksgiving, take the time to go back and feel that sense of gratitude and recognition that perhaps many of us felt months ago. And remember that each of them has a story and each of them has a name, that every single person with whom we interact who is helping us get through these dark days has a critical part in our future. I'd like to say just one last thing since we're talking about Thanksgiving. Rabbi Michael and I, this job of being a rabbi, it is a blessing and it is a gift, and we love to be able to support you. And there have been times, even today, where we have been able to be privileged to witness moments of holiness and beauty. We also know that there are times, even today, when we are here in a dark hour and all we want to do is be able to support you. But because we are talking about thankfulness, what I want to do is just acknowledge how many of you have come to us and have reminded us that we are not Bilha and Zilpah, but that we are people who you acknowledge as people and as friends, as part of this community too. Because even those little things that you do, the texts and the challahs, and the popcorn, and the notes, and the pictures you send me of goats wearing pajamas, because you know that I love goats wearing pajamas, all of these little things that you do to just remind us that you see us, they are precious. To be able to know that we are not only the rabbis of this community, but that we are a part of the community as well, is a gift. And for each and every one of you who has reached out to us and made us feel so human and so whole, we are absolutely grateful and so thankful for you. We will all get through this together. And thank you for reminding us always of that. So this has been a difficult week for our congregation, and so we take a few moments now and we think of those who we have lost. Tonight we are thinking of Bob Bernstein. We're thinking of James Bivens, of Betsy Lee Epstein, of Mark Schwartz, and of Evelyn Joy Schickman, thinking of their families, and our hearts go out to you in this time of grief. We now recall the names of those the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. Lester P. Ackerman, Elizabeth Auer, Clara Barak, Marjorie Poliakoff-Bromberg, Lulu Cohen, Alvin Cohen, Dr. Fred Fabric, Aaron Joseph Fadum, Sarah Meyer Fishman, Julius Frensdorf, Sarah Richter Fridman, Harvey A. Friedman, Jeannie Goldenhirsch, Rose Goldenson, Dr. Alfred Goldman, Sarah Goldstein, Morris Goldman, Nicodemus Morgan Hall, Arthur D. Hirsch, Gerda Hirsch, Fanny Jungman, Sylvia Rose Katz, Rose Bothman Kling, Charles Conner, Harry Frederick Koenigsberg, Valley Koner, Harry Colburn, Bess Kronik, Dr. Oscar Lipschultz, Florence May, Arthur Michelson, Erwin Moore, Sophie Newman, Matanya Niken, David Perlmutter, Lillian Bloom Righteous, Dr. Samuel Richter, Virginia M. Richter, Carol Ann Rittenbaum, Charles Rubin, Michael Sachs, August Lewis Salinger, Nettie Cohn Samuels, Maurice Scallett, Dorothy Shermer, William H. Shield, Claude Schlesinger, Carla Issabacher Schlesinger, Susie Seltzer, Louis Shanblum, Rose Shapiro, Hyman Schifrin, Sidney Schoenberg Sr., Tilly Suffian, Sarah Victor, Leatrice Sanders Weinberg, G. Scott Weinstein, Elliot Weiss, Helen Weiss. So for all those names and for the names that we're keeping in our hearts, we join in the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'emru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam olmei almaya, yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpa'ar v'yitzramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha barichu, la'ela minka b'chata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, ta'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. So for those of you who are with us each week, you know that at the end of services, Rabbi Michael and I often like to find a song that has been something that we've been thinking about or has inspired us this week. This one is by the artist formerly known as Cat Stevens, and is one that I have to say is from the movie Harold and Maude. And if you have not seen it, that is our Thanksgiving gift to you, is that you should go watch Harold and Maude. And it's a song that, while it's so sad, somehow it
May we all grow from it.
Exactly. It makes you feel a little more joyous and a little more whole sometimes. Trouble, oh, trouble, set me free. I have seen your face and it's too much for me. Trouble, oh, trouble, can't you see? You're eating my heart away and there's nothing much left to me. I've drunk your wine, you have made your world mine. So won't you be fair? So won't you be fair? I don't want no more of you. So won't you be kind to me? Just let me go where I have to go there. Trouble, oh, trouble, move away. I have seen your face and it's too much for me today. Trouble, oh, trouble, can't you see? You have made me a wreck, won't you leave me in my misery? I've seen your eyes and I can see death's disguise hanging on me, hanging on me. I'm beat, I'm torn, shattered and tossed and torn. Too shocking to see, too shocking to see. Trouble, oh, trouble, move from me. I have paid my debt, now won't you leave me in my misery? Trouble, oh, trouble, please be kind. I don't want no fight, and I haven't got a lot of time. My friends, may trouble move away from each of us. May we all find what we can be thankful for, and we wish you a Shabbat Shalom and a happy Thanksgiving. Adonai Echad.